Hey everyone, how's it going? Azren here. Hope you guys are doing well. Currently sitting in my car, as you guys can see. I feel like you're going to see more videos coming from my car in the future now, because I've been spending more time out of the house than in the house, and so this just happens to be a good place for me to shoot from. Now, I got our question from Snapchat today, which is, Azren, how can you feel less embarrassed when you're speaking a foreign language? And I wanted to share some of my thoughts. Now, I think first and foremost, there's some short-term strategies and then there's some long-term strategies. Let's start with the short-term. Short-term strategy number one is you want to practice the language you need in specific situations. For instance, if you're ordering food in a restaurant, you're gonna need a certain type of vocabulary and you're gonna be using certain types of sentences. And so if you're in a restaurant, I would highly recommend you're practicing the restaurant vocabulary, the restaurant sentences as much as possible. So in the short term, maybe you're not fluent in the language, but at least you could function properly when ordering food. Or another example could be maybe it's asking for directions, right? Maybe you're living in a different country and you're always getting lost. So practice that conversation, right? There's little, like, very situational type of things you can practice and come across as more fluent than you actually are because you're just good at a certain amount of very common day-to-day situations. Another thing to think about, this is another short-term strategy, is can you work on your accent? This is really weird. Often I have gotten by and tricked people into thinking that I'm way more fluent than I really am because I just have a really good accent when I spoke. And so they're like, oh wow, this kid's really good. And even though there's a lot of things I didn't know, when I'm speaking, I felt more confident because I knew I sounded good, right? Because really, if you look at the root of where that nervousness comes from when you're speaking, you're afraid of making mistakes, you're afraid of sounding dumb, you're afraid of being embarrassed, etc. And the more things you could do to cut down on that embarrassment and cut down on that fear, the better. Right? So for me, pronunciation, I know if I sound good, I feel more confident because I sound good in the language. And so for you, if you're worried about the speed of your speech, if you're worried about what you sound like, if you're worried about bad grammar, you have to figure out what you're most worried about and work on that the absolute most so that you can cut down on that fear. Now, these are all short-term things. In the long term, I think there's really only two answers, and I've said this 1,001 times, and I'll just say it again. Patience and practice. That's it. Patience and practice, two most important things, two major things. Practice a lot over a large number of years, and eventually, naturally, as you get better at the language, you're going to feel a heck of a lot less nervous because you're more skilled, you're more comfortable. And that only comes with time and practice. So even though these short-term things work, the reality is over a long period of time, the only thing that's going to work is if you work a large number of hours, a high number of hours at the language you're learning, and you do that over a long number of years. It's the only real answer. It's the only way to get there, guys. There is no shortcut. So anyway, hope you guys liked the video. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye for now.